This work is a set of reflections of mine as a costume designer, my involvement in works that discuss blackness, and my partnerships with black artists. In this research, I dive into the context of Brazilian theater. I try to understand how this space in which I had my professional training, a space of institutional exclusion, became a place of resistance for the Brazilian black movement. The strategies developed by the Brazilian black theater in constant partnership with the struggle of the black movement guide many of my aesthetic choices. As an Afro-Brazilian artist based in Germany, I always try to understand how experiences of anti-racist struggle in the Global South and Global North affect my costume creations. Despite the marginalization of the black population in Brazil, which has continued to be visible since the end of slavery, several arguments have formed against associating this phenomenon with racial separation between whites and non-whites. An expression has defined up until today: racial democracy. What happened in the beginning during the formation of a Brazilian theater and dramaturgy was a general lack of interest in the development of black characters, essentially throwing them into a completely superficial space. As there are not enough reports about the Brazilian theatrical production until the mid-1940s, it's difficult to know if these distortions also happened with the costumes of black characters on stage. But through dramaturgical studies, it's possible to imagine that the costume design of this time had only perpetuated and intensified a distortion process. With all this said, we can imagine how deep the custom historically contributes to the reproduction of racism in the theater. It's a changing capacity of racism that makes Brazilian theater move from blackface and the exclusive use of Western clothing for black characters to the appropriation of Afro-Brazilian culture and the complete denial of the diverse identities within the Brazilian black community. The custom could have only held the purpose of enhancing all this, making a caricature of black people palpable in the eyes of the spectator while contributing to the established racist imagery. The first Brazilian black theater group, TN, Teatro Experimental do Negro, founded in the 1940s, had an undeniable intent for the emergence of the term black theater, as well as for the fight against the reproduction of stereotypes of black people in the theater scene. The discourse on black theater that emerged during the time of the TN coexists nowadays in a process of resignifications with discussions on gender, the problematization of an essentialist identity of black people, and thoughts about decolonization. The fact that the TN is still inspiring our discourse as Brazilian black artists shows that its work in black theater gains a new meanings over time. I believe that in the creation of costumes for performance, one of the many great challenges is how to make the transition between conceptualization, a whole set of theories and ideas discussed, to materialization. This has to do with understanding the matter not as a result of deposit of some previous concept, but as something that coexists with it and simultaneously facilitates the awakening of the other new concepts. From the start of any project that deals with blackness, I had always asked myself how could I portray the multiple experiences of black bodies in a structurally racist society through costume design. This raises questions about how to move on from being different and what strategies to invent to survive in this place of exclusion. The recognition of difference and blackness appears here as a mechanism to understand the daily conflicts of a body that, when bearing its subjectivity, is faced with distorted depictions of itself. As a costume designer in such a context, I put myself in a process of construction of a new imagination in which changing and healing were possible, realizing that there is no method that leads to such an objective. I always began to think that black performers had a lot to say on stage, not only about their collective pains and fears in a structurally racist society, but also about their tastes, their desires, and their dreams, about how they re-signify the place of the different or the other with their own bodies. When I complicate the notions of ancestry, past, and tradition in the body of the black performer, the custom accompanies the fragmentation of this body that claims it all subjectivity as black, confronts racist stereotypes about itself, and is simultaneously an organic archive. Bearing in mind that black people are faced with a fragmented collective past whose memory deals with lapses, forgetfulness, and gaps, what I refer as ancestral tradition is neither an association with linearity or a view of tradition as a preserved past. The patchwork proved to be so interesting in exploring this theme that I used it in the customs of the performances Unrestricted Contact 2017 and Black Memories on White Bones 2019, following the idea of the patch as a means to discuss the fragmentations that permeate the existence of the black subject. At the same time, a broader reflection on how much the present life of Black people implies dealing with daily erasures, creating strategies to avoid being forgotten or devalued. It becomes possible to interpret a costume made of scraps, a collage, and an overlapping of fabric as a struggle to exist, or individual and collective resistance against the historical erasure of the black subject. In this confabulation of a becoming a new body, this customs imagines another positioning of institutions around the memory of black people, a decolonization of the concept of archive that repairs the way in which their history was and is told.